As far as, do you think they should have nerfed the damage instead of accuracy? So let's look at this, because this was actually a debate or a topic on the Discord. Nerfing damage versus accuracy. We'll do this. Nerfing is not spelled nerfed. Nerfing damage versus accuracy. Cool. So what happened with this? Well, the MVR had its reticle changed pretty significantly. So the old reticle, you might have an enemy battleship, and you'd have your reticle be something like this. Now you could fit that entire reticle on the battleship, which means if you put it in the right place, all 3 bombs are going to hit. They might not all Citadel, but all 3 bombs are going to hit. However, the amount of pen damage that they had was pretty damn significant. So we're going to leave this one as it is. We're going to leave that as gray. And over here, this would mean, from a very talented player making a good drop, it meant you almost always get, I think it was 26-6. 26-6 in Citadel damage. All right, so they changed the rocket. They altered it. Sorry, they changed the reticle. They made it bigger. So now suddenly you have a reticle that's like that. If I can make this correct. Something like this. Which, if you'll notice, it has quite a bit of edge on the side here, and the bomb started getting hardwired to the absolute edge of the reticle, which sucked. So theoretically, you might have a bomb drop here, here, and here. 2 of these don't even hit the ship. One of them overpens off the side. So it's like all of this middle section is just ignored. And I think they've gone through a few revisions where they slowly moved the bombs in or something. But what does this do realistically? Because you only drop 3 bombs, you're going to expect you might get an 8,000 Citadel, but then again you might not, but you might get a 16,000. Is this over nerfed? Yes. Why? Because a midway can religiously hit 12 to 16 over and over again, and it'll set fires. So getting 16,000 in Citadel damage is not a joke, but this is something that you might want to aim for in terms of consistency, but that's still 2 out of 3. You're just trying not to get the 3 out of 3. Well, I do think they've changed this reticle multiple times to the point where now the bombs drop more in this area, where it's this on the outside. So you can actually strike a fair portion of the ship, resulting in multiple Citadels. So this alteration seems to feel like it points more toward the 16k, which is more in line with what the Midway could do, kind of what the Audacious can do, kind of what the Hakuryu can do. The Hakuryu is going to do like 12 to 20. What's the difference instead if we take the MVR and instead of doing the reticle change, where we make the reticle bigger, we instead make the reticle the same, so that it's more accurate, or, you know, the same, so it's equally accurate as what it used to be. Okay, so now you've got a more interesting problem. Because with this, you've nerfed the damage. So let's say you take this all the way down to 6,000 damage per bomb. Just for lulz. 6,000 damage per bomb. In which case, if it's the MVR and it's the old reticle, a strong player is going to hit 3 Citadels almost every time. Almost every single time. So if one of those Citadels misses, you're going to do 12. All right, question is, 12 is probably okay. Midway does 16-ish. 12,000 in Citadel damage. You don't get some fires, but Citadel damage is pretty hard to rep. But it means that the best that you can do is 18. Is that worth it? Secondly, a pro player is always going to hit 18. Over and over and over again. Sometimes it's not going to connect because the reticle's going to do whatever the fuck the reticle's going to do, but you can assume you will always hit 18,000. Here, this is the target. You know, you get your jackpot, you get double Citadel plus maybe a little pen or something. You might get triple pen, in which case it's 8, so at least there's a float between these two values. Here, you expect it to be this, but it could also be this because it's probably not going to be anything else. Do you want the dependability, or do you want the unlikeliness. Now, this is frustrating, I'll grant you, but knowing religiously, I have this is what this will do, bam, it's going to happen, dependable. This could be a problem in somebody's hands that's not going to miss. Similarly, if you look at destroyers, you might have a destroyer that's broadside, and if your reticle is this big, in the hands of a player that's really capable, they're not going to miss, which means you're going to deal something like 8 to 12k damage on a destroyer. All right, well, what if we nerf the damage? What if we just change the damage? We'll make it blue so that it'll be damage reduced. Maybe we'll cut like a full third out of it, or hell, maybe even a little more. Third's probably okay. We'll go with something like 5 to 8. Okay, so if the reticle is good, you're going to hit 5 to 8 on a destroyer over and over and over and over and over again, because you have to assume the pro player is going to nail this. The average player? No, probably not. They're going to hit maybe half of these or a quarter of them, but the pro player is going to hit it every single time. Versus if you make the reticle bigger, some of the shots are going to land, and instead of having this 8 to 12, because many of the shots will miss, you're going to end up with 5 to 8, which is roughly the same. Well, maybe 8's a little high. We'll say something like 4 to 7. Now, the question here is, if you have a lower skilled player, the lower skilled player is definitely going to low roll. If you have a high skilled player, this is going to contain them. It's also going to leave some variance. So it's not going to be every single time you see a rocket plane and a destroyer, you're going to get fucking nailed. Something else that we could look at would be the reticle for the midway. If you're going after a DD and you've got your reticle for the midway, which is something like this, there's a fair amount of miss there. But if you even get a single bomb, you've dealt 4k damage. If you happen to land 2, that's 8. And on a destroyer that has like 18 to 24,000 damage, that's a lot. So the real question is, should the midway's reticle be made bigger? I mean, I know it wouldn't be fun, but if you're going against a battleship that's going to be this big, because the midway reticle is actually pretty much able to zone in on a battleship, then you'll have some overlap. But since you drop 6 bombs, you can average probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 sometimes, and you're going to give a lot more safety to a destroyer that, frankly, 4,000 damage is still a lot to. So it comes down to what are the numbers that you're trying to impress upon from one player to the other. You're trying not to overdo it, but you're trying not to underdo it. You can either make it so that it's extremely capable and consistent, or there's a little more variance into it, so the play kind of develops over time. It's a tough question. It could go either way. There's merits one way, there's merits other way. Personally, I think they could increase the reticle on the midway. I think that would be okay. Frustrating, and I'm sure I would swear a lot, but it would be okay.